Oh, yeah, everybody. You know what time it is. It's time for the Dallas Cowboys Evening Report. Wow. This morning I got clowned a lot. I definitely got clowned a lot because I could hear the music in my headphones and everything, but it wasn't loud enough for you guys to hear it. So everybody saw me kind of bebopping to the beat or trying to bebop to the beat with no music, and they're like, yeah, you look funny. But, here's the thing. I don't care if you laugh with me or laugh at me. As long as you are laughing with the way things are these days, that's a good thing. So laughed on. I got no rhythm. I'm an old guy. My hair is jacked up. Have at it. Have fun. And it'll probably help you live longer. So with that being said, I love my music here. Stacy Schubert, she said, man, I need to know who does your mixing because I need to get some music done. Well, for all of you out there, it's Ron Oliver from Tower Light Records. He's definitely hooked the brother up, and I love the beat. So I think it's about to end right about now. So let's get on to the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, I've already actually put a video out earlier today letting you know that William Sweet, offensive tackle for the Cowboys, basically was a journeyman offensive line. He's not really a journeyman. He's only been in the league 2 years. But an offensive lineman that wouldn't have gotten signed had we not had so many injuries and been so decimated on the offensive line. He was brought in and played for us against the Giants and I believe Cincinnati, and the Cowboys released him today. So no more Sweet in the locker room. Reggie Robinson, a defensive back we drafted in the fourth round last year. The Cowboys have been trying him at safety, and this actually may bode well in their thinking because they've decided that, you know what, we're just going to keep you at defensive back. And he may be fighting for that last DB spot on the team. For me, that actually goes a long way to me, and I'm trying to read between the lines here, that they believe that they've got the safety situation solved, or that they have some guys that are going to be doing well enough for them for that. Now, an interesting thing, because we're having all kinds of discussions. In fact, I was trolling Philly 500 and his crew during the live stream. He had another giant YouTuber on there who said he would love to come on the channel and stuff, and it's kind of like, you know what, I'm an equal opportunity bitch slapper, so if you want to come on the channel and everything else and get bitch slapped and everything else, that's not a problem. I'm more than happy to have you here. It's kind of funny how the Giants and the Eagles, they are kind of like, I don't know, getting along. I think they've kind of seen the writing on the wall where they realize this is not our year that we're going to be winning the division. It's the Cowboys in Washington, and then it's us two. So I think they're kind of consoling each other, and they're kind of having the little infighting with each other because they figure that's all we got. That's all. You're all we got, man. You're all we got. So I'm cool with that. So there's a couple interesting things that happened today because it's still kind of quiet with the Cowboys. We're in phase 2 of OTAs, which today is hump day. There's 2 more days left of phase 2. Then we start 3 weeks of phase 3 starting next Monday. The players have the weekend off, which is great news. They'll be able to kind of get themselves, rested up before they have this last 3-week drive before they are off. School's out for summer until training camp. And these first couple of days are the rookies, having their eyes wide open with the veterans and things, guys that they've watched and stuff, in high school and things. Now they're teammates with them. And I'm sure that they are a bit in awe of being there with Dallas Cowboys. I would love to be a fly on the wall, or maybe even a cicada. The cicadas are coming out. Maybe I could be a cicada on the wall there watching practice, but unfortunately I'm not. The big thing that's been going on has been the Pro Football Focus top quarterbacks in the NFL and their ratings. Of course, these things mean nothing. A couple of years ago, they were saying that Dak Prescott was a tier 3 quarterback, and before he ended up taking some leaps forward. They have him at number 7 currently, and that's brought a whole lot of talk and conversation about placements of quarterbacks. They famously had Jalen Hurts as 31st. I think Daniel Jones they had around 20, and listening to Philly 500 and crew and stuff, it was interesting, hearing their takes and stuff on it. This clip I came across this morning, and this I guess is for fantasy football, and I'm not a fantasy football one, but let's listen to the tape here real quick.
All right, Nate, you were on the clock now. I feel like this fell pretty good for you, actually, all things considered, with you having the number 2 pick in your personal history.
But you keep saying that, and it's like now I'm like scared. Am I like overthinking this? But with the number 2 pick, the Nate Tice, quarterback selection group selects Dak Prescott with the number 2.
Whoa!
Yeah, that's why you kept saying that, and I'm like, are you sure you know who I'm going with here? Like, yeah.
I saw you tweeting Dak Prescott clips earlier, and I
thought it was going to be at 5.
Nope, I teased it. I
was ready to take him at 3 to jump.
Exactly. Thank you. But no, he wasn't coming there at 5. I am taking Dak Prescott here, and I ready for some machine gun fire right here.
Why? Why him over Russell Wilson?
His pre-snap operation, like with him, with Travis Frederick, and now what he has, he's turning 28. Okay, he's only going to get better. It doesn't matter who's around him. And then honestly, I know the contract's ridiculous, but he's worth it. I mean, he's a top tier guy. He's been top 4 in QBR every year since he's been a starter, except for one season. That's as elite as it gets. I've always looked at kind of elite quarterbacks almost like Sith Lords. Like there's only like 2, 3, or 4 of them, and then one has to drop out before another one kind of gets in. Wow. And I think he's just always been a part of that tier. And I think he's just only going to get better as he's in his prime. And those quarterback things that he already shows that he can do, he's just going to get better at it.
What the hell's going on out here?
Wow, that's kind of amazing. Yet, it's still listening to the Eagles crew and the Giants crew and things, and they'll tell you that, Dak Prescott, he's a bum and this, that, and the other. But, I'm going to have something actually a little later. I'm still doing the research on it, on garbage time, because we've heard so much about garbage time. I want to go through and find out, is Dak Prescott just a garbage time? And what exactly does garbage time mean? But we'll be with that later on. One other thing that was interesting today that I actually want to talk about is the discussion was, somebody had said DeSean Jackson is the greatest deep threat ever in football. DeSean Jackson does have, I think, more 20-yard touchdowns than anybody else. I'll give you that. But I don't know about saying that DeSean Jackson is like the greatest deep threat, because it's hard to compare different eras of football. The rules are definitely different. Right now, if you're a wide receiver and trying to be a deep threat, you have to understand, and I tell you what, personally, I'm going to say that Megatron, and I remember Megatron lighting us up for 3 touchdowns, having one of these miraculous comebacks against the Cowboys where we were up by 20 points, having 3 touchdown passes and being a major deep threat. I think about Randy Moss. And Randy Moss literally being unstoppable before. There's so many players that I'll put ahead of DeSean Jackson, because the thing that's interesting is a lot of you guys, you're young, and I understand that you only think that the world began when you were born and what you've seen. But there's a whole nother world out there. Now, here's the thing. I want to show this video. It's a VSH video. I used to have this growing up back in the 80s. It's NFL Crunch Course. Now, what may end up happening, and I won't know until after I finish the video and upload it, it may end up being that it ends up getting, copyrighted and it gets cut out. If it is, I'll put the link in the description for this. I want you to go back and I want you to watch NFL Crunch Course. Because what you have to understand is how everything's changed. I remember, oh man, and I should find this clip, but Drew Pearson talking to Drew Pearson a couple years ago, I interviewed him. And I asked him, if you were a wide receiver today, how many more catches would you have? And he said, and I quote, if I was a wide receiver today, I'd be in Huntsville. I was like, Huntsville? He said, yeah, Huntsville. Because against these sorry-ass cornerbacks, I would be making so many catches it would be like stealing. And that's the honest truth. Because the rules were so different. You know, you think when you watch Crunch Course, and like I said, I hope that it doesn't get copyrighted. The NFL was really where men went to play. There was none of this illegal contact. You were getting the crap beat out of you going down the field the whole way. If you were a quarterback, you know, this stuff where Tom Brady, where literally a guy stretched out and he brushed his chest like that, and he gets a 15-yard penalty and a first down, and they go on in the playoffs and win? Dude, they didn't wear skirts back then. The fact that, and this is where the intro in here, and again, I don't know if it's going to be on here or not. Back in the day, it wasn't your knee hitting the ground that called the play dead. No. It was your forward progress. You literally went to the ground. You could still be rolling. You were still live. And if I am the defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn, when I talk about the Dallas Cowboys defense last year, and I say, how many of the players on the current roster could play for the Dallas Cowboys back in the 70s or back in the 90s? The only one I looked at last year and said, D-Law could be a backup. Those guys were that good and that tough. And what I want you to notice when you watch this, and I hope I can get to this, is when they tackled, it wasn't just Jalen Smith grabbing on and holding to the guy and him being drugged down the field. You had everybody converging on a player, the quarterback, the running back, the wide receiver. Because what you get when you have that is, when you get hit by multiple players, you cough up the ball. You get takeaways. Or you put the fear into that person's head about going across the middle, about the next time I carry the ball. They're thinking about getting hit more than anything else. Hopefully this will still be here, but I just want to get a little taste of this. It's a 41-minute video, or should I say a VHS. Hell, it was probably available in Betamax.
The physical part of football is still the most important part. When you have two teams that know what they're doing and two teams that have great athletes on both sides, then usually the game is decided by the team that hits the hardest.
Before you can do anything in football, you've got to be able to move from spot A to spot B to hit somebody. Now, once you get there, you want to get there with the most velocity and the most power and the most impact.
Look at that. You know that's 15. Look, that's 15 yards. Look at that, 15 yards. Look at
The rules for playing the game of football allow for a tremendous amount of collision. And this is a collision sport. It's not a contact sport.
Look at that.
You lose the battle of the hitting, I'm not sure you're going to win the other battle either.
I'll tell you what you better do. I can watch you. You're walking around out there with your finger up your and you ain't hitting the damn phone. The name of the game, man, is hit.
It's still a physical game. Let's face that fact, and it always will be. That's what makes people want to play this game, because it is a physical game. It's not touch tag. Let's call it what it is. It's violent, and it's physical.
You see these hits on the quarterbacks, right? You see this.
When a guy gets hit and his headgear pops off, that's part of the game. And that's what people pay money to go see, the great hits.
I want to skip ahead a bit. Oh, well.
But were acceptable during the 1950s.
Here we go.
Grabbing the face mask was another.
Grabbing the face mask.
Defensive aces held all the cards.
The ball was not whistled dead until the forward progress had stopped, not his knee touching the ground. So they were free game. It was kind of open season. If they fell down and were rolling and scratching, trying to get some yardage, they would open up on it. That was the only enjoyment linemen would ever have during the whole game.
From the 1950s to the mid-60s, the NFL was not exactly a league of gentlemen.
No.
Many players had served in World War II or Korea, and most still had plenty of fight left in them.
That's a team tackle there, guys. That's a team tackle. They didn't tackle them well, but it was a team effort.
And it took devious methods to send them to the bench. The dictum, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, was as relevant to the NFL as it was to biblical times.
I never would accept anyone hitting me illegally.
Deacon Jones.
Now, when that happens, then you must serve justice. And if you don't know how to serve justice, then you're going to get kicked around the league.
You never hit the guy back. You hit him first, because invariably the noise or commotion that it creates gets the attention of the referee, and then by the time he looks around, he's catching the other guy. So the trick is to hit first.
I used to stay up at nights thinking about hitting a guy like that. Frank was not looking at Ben Eric. He should have been looking for him because Charlie could hit. And
Look at this
something's
hit.
got to give, and it was Frank.
Like a cheap shot? Well, it really wasn't. I mean, Ben Eric, had he given me a cheap shot, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. He's just a good, solid football player and a great football player.
During the 1950s, football players had to be solid in order to remain standing in a savage world where only the strong survived.
One more section in here.
More than in the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, an international showcase for athletic achievement for 5 decades. Everything from Super Bowls to Olympiads.
This is the last clip I'm going to show in here, but
today it belongs to the Los Angeles Raiders. No team in professional sports intimidates opponents more effectively.
Howie Long.
And no member of this team is more relentless in his intimidation than defensive lineman Howie Long.
The Raiders, I'd show up at camp. They didn't ask me to bench any weight. They didn't ask me to do any vertical jumps. They didn't ask me to do any broad jumps. They didn't ask me to hop in a think tank and see how my bad dreams were. They gave me a helmet. You're going to play defensive line, and I started to play.
Yeah. Watch these hits, guys.
I didn't know how to get to the quarterback, so my one move was just come off the ball and run everyone over.
Doesn't he look like a psycho?
And if that didn't work, I tried to fight them. But they called me caveman because they just liked the way I attacked people. My background in football knowledge was so limited that they would be going over terminology such as out of east eye right, triple slot left. And immediately I started looking around the room like, you know, is anyone else picking this stuff up? You know, or am I the only one that's not getting this?
You're the only one.
It turns out I was like the only one that wasn't getting it. They had to literally take me from square one to where I am now.
Look at that.
A surprise second-round draft choice from Villanova has matured into the game's most menacing defensive presence.
When you start to draw up plays, you are content.
All right, so this may be where we're coming back on here. If the YouTube police end up getting us for copyrights, go to the NFL Crunch course. Watch the video. I'm going to put that in the link here in the description. I hope that they don't, because this really brings this whole thing back into focus. Because when I hear them say, DeSean Jackson, he's the greatest deep threat, you know, of all time, I'm like, you know what? How long do you think DeSean Jackson would have played getting hit like that? I ask you, do you think Tom Brady would still be playing at, 43 years old if he got hit like that? And mind you, those tackles weren't unnecessary roughness. Today's football is much like everything that we do to our kids, where our kids literally, Johnny, you get a participation trophy. You didn't play at all, but you were part of the team. Here you go. You get all these guys that feel like they're entitled, they're coddled, they get these big paychecks. These guys, you know, they talked about Chuck Vignerich there hitting Frank Gifford. He was a concrete finisher in the offseason. The hits, the abuse, the preseason, the training camp where you had 6 preseason games. Everything was tougher back then. The rules are made now jaded towards the offense. The defense used to hold all the cards. So when you say DeSean Jackson is the greatest deep threat ever, you can't even compare our modern-day players with the guys that I watched growing up. All of you old-school football fans like me, in other words, old people, you know what I'm talking about. You know what football used to really be like. Yeah, football was like modern-day gladiators. You know the deal. Coach here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Thank you as always, everybody. I wish for a Super Bowl. How about them Cowboys? I'll see you guys.